We have a problem in Washington. I call it the Department of Bananas problem. Banana stands for build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything. That's our policy on energy, among other things. And what this means is when you go to Washington and tell people there's a problem and they don't know about it, they feel embarrassed. So you're going to find that with politicians, the press, the media, doesn't matter. Rafsanjani, you saw his quote yesterday. He said, one nuclear weapon on Israel and all the Jews die. A couple nuclear weapons land in Iran, the revolution continues. We have the technology on missile defense, but we don't have the numbers. Therefore, people who say that missile defense can take care of the problem, your response is not yet, and even if it can, you have to do hardening. You have to do hardening of our critical infrastructure because missile defense will do nothing about a solar storm. And will do nothing about non-nuclear radiation at the local level. Some guy in the back of a pickup, remember the Navy did an experiment down in Dahlgren, which is their base in Virginia, and they had on the back of a pickup, they put a non-nuclear radiological device, and everything within 3 miles was fried. And that was just something under a tarp. You'll get this response. You're not going to do this with my money, therefore it's not a problem, therefore we can't do it. One of the brilliant things we have is we have a stimulus package that's passed. The money's there. The amount of money we're talking about, $4 to $5 billion, is what America spends at the movies on weekends in a year and a half. I think we can afford it. People in Washington, when you bring up a problem, they say they've never heard of it, so then they will deny that it exists. And that's just a defense mechanism because they don't want to admit they missed it. But we have Congressman Thompson, Congresswoman Clark, we have Congressman Bartlett, we have Senator Lieberman, we have Mr. Chris Beck. We have a lot of folks on our side, which we didn't have a couple years ago. Another thing they'll have is they'll say, we don't do that here. It's that other guy's job. That's part of the response you get in Homeland Security. FEMA does that. And one thing about industry, they don't volunteer to spend their own money on something that someone hasn't told them to do. And that's why we need federal legislation to change FERC's, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, to make sure that they can tell the utilities, yes, you have to do this, and we can find the money to do that. And the question in my mind is, do you want to do this before or after the grid shuts down? I mean, ask industry, ask your first responders, ask mayors. Do you want to do this after or before? Because you're not going to be able to do it after, unless it's a local shutdown. In July 2008, the head of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, told an interviewer, quote, Iran will attack the West with our suicide bombers and our ballistic missiles, and we know how to shut down all your critical nodes. He wasn't talking about launching a rocket at all of this. He said you have 64 critical nodes in America that can shut down your infrastructure. He mentioned the number. They don't have 64 rockets with that kind of precision. What could he be talking about? Back, I think it was 4 years ago, Iran did launch a rocket over the Caspian from a barge. The rocket blew up at about 200 miles above the Earth's surface. Our intelligence community, God bless them, said it was a failure. The Iranians announced it as a success because that's precisely what they wanted to do. This is from Dory Gold's book. Months earlier, the CIA took possession of the computer of a senior Iranian technician that contained blueprints of how to construct a nuclear warhead. One document tracked the flight of a missile, but also had some notations explaining how to detonate a warhead above the target, as well as spherical sketches for the design of a nuclear trigger and how to place the device into the nose cone of an Iranian 1,300-kilometer Shahab-3 missile. Let me conclude with a personal story about why I do what I do. In 1929, a young lawyer who worked for the German Air Force named Helmut Graf von Moltke visited Britain. And he visited some parliamentarians. And he said, you have to stop Hitler, because if he comes to power, he will destroy Europe. And their response was, oh, Hitler's a clown. Why do you believe he's the threat? And Helmut said, Mein Kampf. And they said, what's that? And after a few of their discussions, he said, is there anybody in Britain I need to talk to? And they said, oh yes, there's that funny man named Winston Churchill, who at that time was a backbencher in the Tory party in Britain. And he went to talk to Churchill, and Churchill said, yes, Hitler will destroy Europe if he comes to power. And that channel of communication remained open. That man was my grandfather. He was the head of the German resistance during the night, lawyer by the day. He was arrested in January 1944 for helping Jews and Christians escape concentration camps and was executed in July 1944. His widow is 98 and she lives in Vermont, my grandmother. This is why I do what I do, and I just want to thank you all for providing for the common defense. Thank you.